Okay, hi everybody. We're live here. Jeff the Prosperous from Blessings on My Journey, and uh, it's an absolute honor to have Dr. Anthony Chaffee on. Good day, Dr. Chaffee.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And I want to apologize to you, to all your subscribers, to my subscribers. I had huge technical difficulty this morning.
Mhm.
It's like 8:45 now, and we were supposed to start 45 minutes ago. So I'm really sorry to everybody.
That's all
I just
good.
wanted to start with that. Um, I just want to say, Dr. Chaffee, this is my fourth time on with you. So I want to
Mhm.
thank you again for making time for me. I think, actually, to be honest with you, Dr. Chaffee, I think it's been about 5 times because if I include the 24-hour live event where Carrie Wan showed my video and you addressed me, that was the first time, really. And then we did one with Carrie. We did one with you and me just recently. It came out on your podcast. And we did one with, I believe, JT from Polka Moonshine. It was the one about youth in Carnivore. So
Mhm.
we've done a few. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's always a pleasure, and it's always great to see you and Carrie. Everything that you guys are doing and getting the word out there. It's just growing and growing and growing, and getting more people excited about it, which is great.
Awesome. And my subscribers are all tuning in now. They're all saying hi. So thank you. I just wanted to say to everybody that's tuned in, I just want to introduce myself, and Dr. Chaffee's going to introduce himself. And I want to also talk about us as athletes, our little history, just a brief one. And then we'll start fielding questions, kind of. Does that sound good, Dr. Chaffee?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, and I just want to do one quick thing because I kind of had this planned. My two sons, Peter and Dante, let me see here. They were going to be on with us today because it's about athletes. But if
Hmm.
anyone can see in the background there is the footy pitch, and
Yeah.
Peter and Dante are on there right now, and they're training from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. And they do that every Saturday and Sunday with this trainer, Ian McClurg, here in Ontario. He's from the UK, and my sons have been training with him for about 5-6 years. So they are kind of part of this today. So I just wanted to show them and show the audience and everybody that today's topic, everyone, is carnivore for athletes and youth. And I'm just going to quickly introduce myself, and then I'll pass it on to you, Dr. Chaffee, to introduce yourself to my audience and to everybody. My name is Jeff, everybody, and I started a YouTube channel back in September because I've been on a journey. And my new mantra is to be cancer-free. But today, I'm not going to be talking about how I have stage 4 colon cancer because I've done many calls on that. I want today to be different with Dr. Chaffee. I want to talk about carnivore because I've had a lot of success. I've been a carnivore for 20 months now, and I've had a lot of success in terms of my own health getting better. And I am a high school phys ed teacher. I have been for 21 years in my hometown in Brantford, Ontario. And I coach many, many sports. I played varsity soccer for 2 universities here in Ontario, Wilfrid Laurier and Brock University. I had a lot of success as an athlete, and I'm enjoying working with youth for the past 21 years, coaching them and teaching them when it comes to phys ed, sports, and nutrition. So that's just a quick, brief introduction about myself, Dr. Chaffee. If you don't mind taking over and introducing and tell everybody your credentials because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks. So my name is Dr. Anthony Chaffee. I'm an American physician. I work in Australia at the moment. Currently in my residency for neurosurgery. I also have a private practice in functional medicine, metabolic health, sometimes called preventative medicine. But same things you can do to prevent diseases, you can do to reverse them. And so we have a lot of patients formerly with diabetes and obesity and autoimmune issues and all sorts of other weird, wild and wonderful things that are doing much better now because we sort of address things at a root cause level, which sort of ties into all my work online in the carnivore diet, because something that I've realized as a physician, one of the most powerful tools that we can use are dietary interventions. Eating the way we're supposed to eat, designed to eat biologically, is one of the strongest things that you can do to heal disease. As Hippocrates said 2,500 years ago, before you heal anyone, first ask them if they're willing to give up what is making them sick. And that is so true today, because everything that we're doing is what is making us sick. We're not sick because our bodies are just failing and they're just crapping out and they're just breaking down because we're a defunct species, and that's just how we're designed and made. That's completely false. We're designed to be extremely healthy, and we're built to be very healthy, and animals are all very healthy. Humans are supposed to be healthy. So that's the idea, is getting people back to their natural state of health. And that's what I use the carnivore diet for. So I've been studying diet and nutrition for over 25 years. I've been practicing as a doctor for 11 years, taking some breaks, doing humanitarian work here and there, and back at it, seeing patients full time now. And I played sports since I was a kid. I trained in MMA at one of the top gyms in America, AMC Kickboxing in Washington State with Matt Hume, since I was 14. I was there sort of every day until I was 18 or so, and then I started playing rugby. I was an All-American. I started focusing mainly on that. I played professionally for 10 years before medical school, and then kept playing throughout medical school and beyond as well. And so that has been a huge benefit to me as well, especially because 5 years of those 10 years I was on a carnivore diet, and I felt like an absolute superhero. And then the latter 5 years, when I'm more experienced, I'm older, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I should be better, but it wasn't anything close to how dynamic and explosive and athletic that I was in my first 5 years of my 20s. So it's a massive difference. And now that I'm in my 40s, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. I feel like I'm in my early 20s because I'm eating the way I did in my early 20s. I feel better now at 44 than I did at 28 playing professional rugby, or 26, 27. I just felt better than from 25 to 38. I feel better now than I did in that whole chunk of time. So just trying to pass that along to people and show them the science behind it, that that this works. It's not just a one-off or a two-off or a 1 million off. There's millions of people doing this now and finding the same results. But there's a reason for that, because it actually works.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee. And I just want to say to all my subscribers and Dr. Chaffee subscribers, if you could just hold off another about 5 to 10 minutes for the questions, because there are a few things I want to talk to Dr. Chaffee about. And when we do start fielding questions, if you can put QQQ, Dr. Chaffee, is that what you have your subscribers do?
Yeah. Just make it obvious that it's a question, and we'll try to catch it.
That's great. So thank you for the introduction, Dr. Chaffee. I just want you spoke about your credentials. You spoke about your professional rugby, your MMA training, everything. That's great. You have such an athletic history. I want to make sure everybody understands that. This gentleman that I'm honored to be on here with today, he does brain surgeries during the day. He works out. He's an athlete. We're going to learn a lot here today. And I'm hoping, Dr. Chaffee, because we started late, do we still have an hour? Can we go to about, I would say, 9:45 Eastern? Is that okay?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, that's great. So before we get going and talking about and more questions, I just want to say a little bit about my past. I did talk about me playing university soccer, but I grew up playing all sports from a young age. My dad got me in soccer at 5 years old, and I ventured into also playing a lot of competitive basketball. I didn't have the stature, the height for it. Maybe if I was carnivore as a kid, I might have grown a few more inches, but I got to about 5'9", 5'10", and I was a point guard in high school. I was a running back in high school for football. I played rugby actually as well. I had an opportunity to go over to Ireland when I was in my last year of high school, and we did a little tour over there. So, and then I went off to university and I played university soccer. So I have quite a bit of experience, and I just want to say I always knew the power of meat. when it comes to giving you strength, and energy, and repairing your muscles as well. Especially growing up in an Italian culture household, my mom always cooked very Mediterranean style, but good fresh meat all the time, and she knew the importance of it. And I grew up being being a little bit obsessed with athletes, professional athletes, just like I am obsessed with you, Dr. Chaffee, and all the doctors on YouTube right now, because I'm on a different journey right now in my life. But I grew up being obsessed with someone like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was my biggest hero. And obviously from my hometown, Brantford, Ontario, Wayne Gretzky. Okay. And now in the soccer world, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. So I was watching something online a few days ago about Michael Jordan, and I knew this about him. His pregame meal was always a steak, steak, and I guess he had a side of potatoes. Wayne Gretzky did the exact same thing, and Lionel Messi, to every single big soccer competition, he gets hundreds of pounds of meat delivered to wherever he is so that he's performing. So I just want to say, and driving here this morning to my son's soccer training, we listen to motivational speakers all the time. And this morning we were listening to Kobe Bryant. And because Kobe Bryant, he's quite motivational when it comes to improving oneself. And he talks about the Mamba mentality, and he talks about how you want to be the best version of yourself and improving yourself day to day. So I just wanted to say that's one way we can encourage our youth and our athletes, having role models and seeing what they've done, especially when it comes to diet, when it comes to the carnivore diet. Michael Jordan always having a steak before every single meal. Kobe Bryant saying that we need to improve day to day and be the best version of ourselves. So this is why I'm saying this topic today, it's true to my heart in terms of working with athletes, working with youth as an educator. And, I think that's where we're going to go with today, Dr. Chaffee. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So I just taking a look at my agenda here quickly. I've talked about my past. You've talked about your past. Athletes today, Dr. Chaffee, can you explain where they're getting their energy from? And I know there's 3 different macronutrients, and maybe we can explain to the audience the options that athletes have when it comes to energy and performing. Does that sound all right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, a lot of people, most people are getting their energy from carbohydrates. We've been told for the last 40, 50 years that you have to eat carbs in order to burn carbs. Even the golden era bodybuilders like Vince Gironda, who just steak and eggs. They're like, that's what we're supposed to be eating. That's what humans have been eating forever. That's what we're supposed to eat. Even he thought that you needed to do a carb day once a week, because he said you need to replenish the glycogen in your liver. And the only way to do that is eating carbs. I saw that. That was a quote of his. That's not the case. That's not the case. That may have been what they understood at the time. That's not true. In fact, there have been studies in athletes, in humans, showing that ketogenic athletes replenish their muscle and liver glycogen faster than carb-fueled athletes drinking sugar water like Gatorade, right?
Yes.
So, it not only can you do it, you can do it better naturally on your own. So at the moment, everyone's just sucking down sugar and sugar water and sugar pills, and Gatorade became this whole big thing. The original Gatorade was just electrolytes. It didn't have just a ton of sugar. Now it's all sugar. It's barely any electrolytes, and that's what people run on. They think you have to have all these carbs, all these sorts of things, which is not the case. I'm sure you experienced this in your athletic career. The concept of hitting the wall. That was something that was very familiar to us when I was growing up. You push yourself, and then you hit the wall. You just have nothing left in the tank. You're just dead. Most people stop at that point. Most people don't even get to that point. But if you hit that point and you keep going and you push yourself, sometimes people talk about breaking through the wall, and you get your second wind and your runner's high. You can just keep going and going and going and going and going. What that is biologically or biochemically is you're running on carbohydrates, your insulin is up, and your fat cells are blocked. You cannot mobilize energy from your fat cells. And so you only run on the glucose and glycogen that you have in your body from your last few meals. And that's finite. That's going to run out. And there's not that much of it. You have 10, 20, 30 times as much energy stored in your adipose tissue, even in very slender people, than you can maximally store in glycogen in your muscles and liver. So there's massive, massive, massive energy stores there. They're just going to waste if you don't tap into them. So what breaking through the wall is that you've run out of glycogen, you feel like garbage, your blood sugar is dropping, and you can't get it up, and you feel horrible. So you can't get your blood sugar up, you can't mobilize glycogen, you can't mobilize blood sugar, you can't make ketones, right? You keep pushing. Normally, insulin takes about 24 hours to come down to a reasonable amount that you can start, getting your ketones up and your blood sugar up. But if you force the issue, instead of letting you die, your body shifts gears and starts mobilizing your fat stores. And all of a sudden, you have all this energy again, because now you're tapped into your fat stores. And now you can just go and go and go. So a ketogenic athlete is always in their second wind. They're always in their runner's high. They're always past the wall. They're never going to run into the wall because they started after the wall, and they can just go. And that's what I experienced as an athlete in my early 20s, from 20 to 25 or thereabouts. And I could not get tired. I could not run out of energy. I just could go and go and go. Now there's a limit. I mean, your muscles have a specific limit, your lung capacity and all these sorts of things. But if you're pushing yourself maximum, you will have energy. Your body may not be able to go with you, but you'll have the energy to do everything that your body can handle. And then when you're pushing yourself that hard and you're doing so much more and you're going so much harder, you get much more fit and you recover much better when you're just eating meat. And your body heals better, and you build muscle better, and you build strength and endurance better. And so your performance and your athleticism just goes up at an astounding exponential sort of pace. And so you can get in very, very good shape. And eventually I got in such good shape that I simply could not push myself to the point that I would wear myself out. I could not. I was sprinting equivalents of marathons. I just sprint for a mile, dead sprint for a mile, and then I just run hard for a mile. I could have just kept going. I just figured, I was just like, all right, I said I'd do this much, so I did that much. It wasn't like I was like, oh God, oh, I'm hard. It was fine. It was no issue. And then I was running hard, and then it was a dead sprint for another mile, and then running hard for a mile, and then dead. And I just did this. I just kept doing this. And eventually I would just stop after I did, 10, 15 miles. I would just be like, okay, I've just gone up and down the boulevard on Lake Washington Boulevard in Kirkland, Washington. I would run up and down by the lakefront there in the summer, especially. And I just it was 3 miles up, 3 miles back. And so I do that, 2 times, 3 times, and I just was sort of bored. I'm like, do I just stop now? I was literally, I could have just kept going forever, just sprinting a mile, running hard for a mile, sprinting a mile, running hard, or just sprinting the whole time. And I would just get bored because running is stupid.
It is. You know what? I'm going to agree with you right there, Dr. Chaffee. And I'm going to say this to everybody listening. I've been a high school phys ed teacher for 21 years, and I've told my students many times, I hate running. I can't stand it. Right? I like to run on the pitch, on the soccer pitch, the rugby pitch, the basketball court, whatever. I need to be motivated in that sense to be running. So that's amazing, Dr. Chaffee. From your experience, because I haven't really had a chance to really experience being in the state of ketosis and being an athlete the way you have, because you did it twice. You did it when you were in your 20s, correct? And then for 5 years, and then you did it kind of later on in life, right? Like just recently, right now. So the next thing I want to say, Dr. Chaffee, is from my experience from the last 20 months, myself and even with my sons as carnivores, because they are too, and I'm looking at them on the pitch right now, and I'm really proud of them, because and many parents that are listening to this, my son Peter, he won't eat a vegetable ever again in his life, and I used to 5 years ago, I used to, like, it was a struggle. Like we would make him, he always liked meat. and my wife would make broccoli, and he would sit there for an hour, 2 hours. You're not leaving the table until you finish those 5 broccoli. And to me, that was abuse. We were abusing him. So anyways, he will never eat broccoli.
I've been that kid, and it felt like abuse. Absolutely felt like abuse.
So we're going to talk later on about parents and what they're doing to their children later on. But I wanted to just expand on what you were talking about a little bit. From my experience, last summer, I was hitting the gym quite hard as a stage 4 cancer patient. With my sons, we joined a gym, and just recently we built a gym in our basement. And the one thing that I've noticed, Dr. Chaffee, and I speak about this because I actually taught a weightlifting course for the past 10 years at my high school. And I it's very basic, and I teach the kids about hypertrophy in terms of your muscle fibers growing and getting bigger and stronger. And I talk about DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. And basically, when I was working out with my teenagers that I teach, and I went really hard in terms of heavy weights like squats or bench or back, I would have DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, either 24 hours later or 48 hours later. And it would last. Sometimes when I did squats, I couldn't even put my socks on the next day because it was so bad. And I was carb dependent at this time. This is a big time carb dependent. So in the past summer, I was working out with the boys, and I was getting the weights quite up there again. And I noticed I haven't had any soreness. I don't have any muscle soreness anymore. I don't have that same delayed onset muscle soreness. And is it because I'm using fat as fuel and I'm having adequate amounts of protein in me that I'm repairing my muscles very quickly? Can you expand on that a little more in terms of the muscle soreness and the recovery?
Yeah, it's really just from plant toxins, right? These are inflammatory factors that are in the plants that are trying to deter you. So the plant's trying to make you sick. It's trying to make you sore. It's trying to screw up your hormones. It's trying to poison you so that you stop eating it. It's just trying to tell you in no uncertain terms, back the hell off. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to be bad for you. And so if you're around in the wild and you just feel like a superhero all the time, and you're really hungry and you're like, well, I'll just try this instead of going to hunting. I'll try chewing on this. It sort of tastes bitter, but yeah, whatever. And all of a sudden you're just sore and miserable, and you're like, oh, no, never again. I'm never touching that thing again. If it doesn't kill you, right? Because a lot of them do kill you. Most of them will kill you if you try that. So don't try that. So that's the thing. You have these inflammatory factors that are causing inflammation, pain, stiffness, swelling, and soreness, and they can act on other parts of your body that are healing as well. So you have areas of some sort of nidus of damage, like arthritis. You have damage of the cartilage. Your bones are scraping together, which is always an unpleasant image. You have an injury. You have sciatica. You have compression on a nerve. You have all these different sorts of things that are a bit of a problem, but now they're exacerbated because you have all this inflammation that is making that pain signal 10 times worse. And so when you just get rid of that, it just goes away. Do an experiment. You'll have all the same protein, all the same ketones and fat and all that sort of stuff. You'll be in ketones, you'll be running on fat, have all this protein, drink 1 cup of coffee. Let me know how you feel. You'll be sore for 2 days. Right. So it's not the lack of protein and fat. It's not the lack of being in ketosis. Ketosis does help because when the ketones are higher, they directly suppress inflammasomes, and that will reduce the pain and swelling and all that sort of stuff all on its own. But if you drink coffee, that shouldn't kick you out of ketosis. It's not going to stop you from having the protein that you just ate and the fat and everything like that, but it will make you sore. So there are inflammatory factors and chemicals that are harmful that we experience that as pain. And that's part of that experience. So we know that there are these toxins that are in there, and say, oh, but is there a dose makes a poison? Well, look, the dose is pretty damn small because 1 cup of coffee will have you sore for 2 days. It's just that no one stops eating these things. So they don't realize that they are being poisoned, that they actually have a much greater effect on their body than they take for granted, or that, they take that for granted. Sorry, I'm just going to write a note for myself, but so that's the thing. So it's inflammatory factor. So, not being in ketosis, sure, that you'll have higher inflammation then. But there do seem to be just actual toxins in the plants that will mess you up. I certainly find that the grains and beans and legumes and seeds, they make that pain come back far worse. So, when I was sort of experimenting early on, I was at a restaurant and I had some beans and rice sort of like mixed in with some of the meat, that it was like chopped up meat. And so I was like trying to scrape it off. And it was just a little bit of rice and a little bit of meat, but it was like a little smear on it. It wasn't even like big chunks of it. And I was thinking, like, I'm getting a little bit of this in me. Like, well, maybe I'll just take a spoonful of the rice and a spoonful of the beans and just see what it does to me. Right. And then I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because if I make an excuse to do that, even for an experiment, I'll make excuses for other things. I'm just not going to do it. So I just did that. Thank God I didn't do that, because just those little residue of beans and rice on this, it felt like someone was stabbing me in the spine in my lower back for the next 4 days. And
when did this happen, Dr. Chaffee? How long ago?
6 years ago.
6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually went to dinner with a pro soccer player in Seattle, funny enough. And then we sort of went and got this like, it was like a Mexican place, and just had this little beans and rice on it. I asked him for it without the beans and rice. Of course, it came on the beans and rice. I'm like, shit. I'm like scraping this stuff off. And I felt, it was a bit funny that day. Not a big deal. The next day I woke up and I could not get out of bed. I tried to get out. It was just like somebody just stabbed me in the back. I was like, whoa, what's wrong? What's going on? It was debilitating pain. I could not sit up out of bed. I was in so much pain. It took, I don't know how many minutes to sort of like shimmy over. I tried to like sort of move over and roll over. It was so painful. And I was able to sort of finally get on my front. And then I sort of was able to push myself up on all fours, slide over to the side, and get into a sitting position on the side of the bed and just sit there and breathe and catch my breath, and then slowly sort of work my way up and stand up. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell happened to my back? And I just had to be locked rigid straight and stand up, because I couldn't bend forward or anything like that. And it was very difficult to get in and out of chairs and then lying down. If I moved in the middle of the night, in my sleep, it would wake me up. It would shock me awake from the pain. 4 days.
Wow. That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Dr. Chaffee, I'm listening to you speak about that experience. It's mind blowing what you had to experience just by a little bit of that poison that you ate. But I look at our youth today, and what I've been experiencing as a teacher, a coach, an educator, and the youth I'm dealing with. I'm constantly hearing kids complain about them being sore, being tired, they overdid it. Even with and it's a reflection, it's got to be a reflection of their diets and what they're eating, because carbohydrates it's through the roof. You can barely go into any restaurant, any grocery store where they're pushing it in our face, right? Carbohydrates, refined sugars, GMOs, all that stuff. And, I'm looking at Peter and Dante on the pitch right now, and Peter's constantly talking to me about, because they both actually have fitness once a week and they work out hard with a fitness instructor. And Peter says all his teammates complain about being sore after, and he's not feeling that. So it's really I'm really proud to hear him say that. And I just wanted to add that in, Dr. Chaffee. And I'm looking at I'm getting tons of comments. My feed, a lot of people are talking and communicating, and this is great. And the conversations that they're having on my channel is great. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff happening on your channel right now too, Dr. Chaffee. So I just want to say to everybody, we're going to start taking some questions. I just got my first QQQ come in, but we'll start with Dr. Chaffee. But even before you pull up your first question, I just want to give a huge shout out, because I'm super excited, Dr. Chaffee. I'm wearing this brand new t-shirt. Okay, that Carrie Man sent me in the mail. I just got it. It's Healing Humanity. It's the documentary he's making. It's about the power of the proper human diet. So I'm really proud, and I'm also wearing my Dr. Chaffee hat today. Okay, yeah. I bought this a few months ago, and I have to wear it every single time I'm on with Dr. Chaffee. And I am a big as athletes, I'm big into Nike because of Michael Jordan. And Adidas is more of a soccer brand, which I was into back when I was playing university soccer. Some of my favorite players like Alessandro Del Piero, David Beckham, they wore Adidas. So I do like that brand as well. So I just want to say, I'm representing Kerry Mann. I'm representing Dr. Chaffee today, and I'm super excited as this live podcast continues on. So, Dr. Chaffee, do you want to pop up your first question if you got one there?
Yeah. Let's see. I didn't actually. Let me see. Let's see if I have some of these. So I don't have them starred.
I got one right. I got one right
yeah,
here.
Why don't you go for? I'll take a look through. I think
this is one of my favorite subscribers. Her name's Sandra. One Hope for All. So hi, Sandra. And I just want to say she's got a question here. If a young man who's not overweight is working out and wants to build muscle, should he have more protein than fat? I used to babysit this guy, 6 years old, and tell him he should be a carnivore. So should they have more protein than fat working out, not overweight?
No, you generally need to. I mean, you'll need enough fat, you'll need enough protein, even if you're working out. You actually tend to need a lot of fat for the energy that you'll be expending. So that's where a lot of your energy comes from. It's fat. If you don't have enough fat, you'll start converting more protein into energy, and you won't be using that for a building block anyway. You'll be using it for energy. So really what you want is you want a lot of fat, you want a lot of meat. You still want it in about the same proportions. And so you just eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. You eat enough fat so that you don't get constipated, and your body takes care of the rest. It's usually about 1 to 2 grams of fat per 1 gram of protein. That's usually how that works out. But people's bodies will change on their demand. They'll need a bit more protein sometimes. They'll need a bit more fat sometimes. But you'll tend to figure that out intuitively. Your body will just sort of tell you. And so it'll go by taste, and the more lean meat will start tasting really, really good. You'll sort of be a bit over the fat, but the lean tastes really good. Those sorts of things, will kick you off and give you a hint of what your body wants. And so you just listen to that, really.
Here's another one. Can I go bodybuilding with only meat? I think we kind of touched on that. Right? We definitely, the energy source we can use is definitely fat, and I've had no problem using it when I've been working out.
Yeah, well, and specifically for bodybuilders, like all the professional bodybuilders in the golden era of bodybuilding, Vince Gironda, Serge Nubret, those guys, they were steak and eggs. Serge Nubret would eat 6 pounds of horse meat a day. Right. The guy was just like a Mongol warrior. He was just an absolute beast. And he was Arnold Schwarzenegger's body idol. That's who Arnold Schwarzenegger grew up saying, I want to look like that guy. Right. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger, what did he do? He didn't do the game changer bullshit that he's trying to push now, because he's selling out and trying to help his buddy James Cameron make a mint on his pea protein company. And that's what that is. It was just a giant commercial, because James Cameron, who was the EP on that, he owns like $140 million worth of a pea protein company. So It's just like, oh, hey, you don't want to eat meat. Oh, it's so bad, but you need protein. Hey, we'll just happen to have some right here. Why don't you buy it?
That's right. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a vegetarian vegan now, right?
My ass, like he's just, no, of course he's not.
I don't know. He's aging quite quickly.
Well, he doesn't look good anyway. I mean, it's not a, if he is vegan and vegetarian, it's not working well for him. I mean, he's older anyway, but Maggie's older than him. Maggie's over a decade older than him. She looks better than him. But all the old school guys, including Arnold, were steak and eggs. Sometimes they'd include carbs once a week because they thought that you needed to store glycogen that way. That's wrong. You don't need to do that. There are professional bodybuilders right now who only eat meat. Ronnie Coleman apparently hated vegetables. He thought they were bad for him, so he wouldn't eat them. I know a guy here who has a company that helped make Ronnie Coleman's supplements, his line of supplements. And he was telling me that. He's told me that Ronnie Coleman's like, yeah, he's like telling me, it's like, oh, hey, here's these guys saying that vegetables are bad. It's like, I told you vegetables were bad. Those things are awful. And so, that's the thing. So I specifically on bodybuilding, I've done posts on that. I've done videos on that. And I've interviewed a lot of professional bodybuilders who have just done keto or even just carnivore and been like European pro champion natural in a non-tested competition. So this was with pros that were on the juice, and he was natural, and he won. He won the whole European pro championship. That was Richard Smith. He goes by Keto Pro on Instagram, and we have a couple of YouTube videos together where we talk about all this stuff, and we go through the science of it and talk to his experiences. And he got absolutely jacked and shredded. He said it was just cheating. It was so easy to get so shredded on a carnivore diet. It was even easier than doing it on keto. So yes, you can definitely do bodybuilding on a carnivore diet. In fact, you'll be better off, because if you're eating a whole bunch of carbs, like, yeah, you'll put on bulk. Oh, I got to bulk. And people say, it's like, well, you can't put on muscle if you're going to put on fat, if you're going to put on muscle. Bullshit. You only put on fat if you're eating carbs. If you're only eating meat, you will not put on fat. You will only put on muscle. And so everything you put on is just lean body mass. It's lean muscle mass. They say, well, you have to have a caloric surplus. No. If you have a caloric surplus, you'll put on fat. You won't put on muscle, idiot. So, like for the Stan Efferdings out there, it's just like, learn some goddamn biology, and math. As caloric surplus equals storing fat. That's the whole idea, even though calories are a bit of a nonsense. But the whole idea is you eat more food than your body has demand for, you're going to store it as energy, right? It's not just going to just like, well, I guess we got it all. I guess we'll just put it into muscle. That's not what happens. Your body, you have a stimulus to build a certain amount of muscle. That's what you build. And the excess gets put into fat. So you need to eat enough. And that's the same thing you can do. You just eat until meat stops tasting good. Fatty meat stops tasting good. Your body will tell you how much it needs. And so you don't need to calculate that out. And you'll only put on lean muscle. So the golden era bodybuilder guys like Garanda and Serge Nubret, even Arnold, you look at him. Arnold was never in this puffy fat stage. He was always jacked, and he would get more shredded coming up to competition, but he was already pretty damn shredded. And so was Serge Nubret and Vince Garanda. They were just always ripped year round. And then they just get a little more lean just for competition. And that's it. So it's a huge advantage to be on a carnivore when a bodybuilder.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Chaffee. I love the passion that you get into answering these questions. Yeah. So the subscribers keep asking these good questions. And I apologize if I'm missing anything. I got some questions popping up. Here's another one. My dad is 2 months on carnivore, and his triglycerides went up from mid 80s to 130. And his HDL dropped from 90-ish to 65. Is there any reason for concern?
Well, so it's you have to sort of ask, wonder, is he really doing carnivore? Is he having other things? Is he eating other things, having sugar, drinking alcohol, artificial sweeteners, any of these other sorts of things? Because, typically you would see sort of the other way around. You see triglycerides come down, HDL go up, things like that. However, things like stress, people getting really stressed out, not sleeping really well, that can negatively affect both of those numbers. I don't even test those things anymore because I find they're useless. I think that testing cholesterol was just a con in the first place. So why are we even testing it anymore? I just say we ignored it and let it go away because it was a con from the beginning. And so why are we paying attention to it now? I think it's a waste of time and money to get your cholesterol checked. However, thing that we should realize, stress can make this worse. Poor sleep can make that worse. And lower HDL and higher triglycerides probably the only useful thing in your cholesterol panel. Except for higher LDL and total cholesterol means you're statistically more likely to live longer. So that's good. But it's not what we think it is anyway. And if you have low HDL and higher triglycerides, it can show metabolic dysfunction. And that can come about from stress and from poor sleep, as well as a bad diet and drinking alcohol and things like that. One thing to remember too is that if you take your cholesterol 10 times in the same day, you'll get 10 different results. And say, oh my God, what's happening? If you work out the day before, you'll have different results. If you have sex before you go in and get your cholesterol test, you'll have different results. Or the day before, right? If you're stressed out leading up to it, you're going to have different results. So you need to get, first of all, you need to get multiple data points, right? One of those could have just been an aberrant test, could have just been something off. It's not actually indicative of his regular trend. And so you need multiple tests to see what's going on. So you want to do it in the same way every time, in a consistent pattern. You want to do it at the same time in the morning, every morning, usually between 8 and 9 a.m. You want to fast for the exact same period of time. If you fast for 10 hours and then you fast for 12 hours, you'll get two different results. And you can try that. Take your bloods, take it at 8 in the morning and take it at 10 in the morning. Don't eat in between, right? You will get two different results. Take your test, work out, go take it again. You'll get two different results. This is such a volatile test. It's so useless. So you take it in the same time in the morning between 8 and 9 a.m., fasting from 9 p.m. the night before, only water after that, only water in the morning, no coffee, tea, supplements, medications until after your test. You take at least 2 glasses of water, no more than 4 glasses of water, same hydration status. If you're taking any B vitamins or anything that contains biotin, which is a B vitamin, that can disrupt your hormones. That can disrupt your blood test. That can change your results as well. So stop those for 3 days before you take your blood test. And then be very calm and relaxed and no stress for certainly the morning of and a couple of days leading up to it. Don't get pissed off in traffic on your way into getting the blood test. Don't get in a fight with someone in your family or get pissed off and getting kids out of the house to go to school. Just be chill. And no stress, exercise, or sexual activity the morning of or the day before your test. You do all those things consistently, you'll get much more consistent results. And then you get a few more data points. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Check it again in 3 months and then 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Cholesterol was never the problem. His metabolic health could be impacted, and that could change his HDL and triglycerides. A carnivore diet is only going to improve that. Saturated fat is known to raise your HDL. And eating carbohydrates and sugar and alcohol and seed oils raise your triglycerides. So you're not eating any of that, and you're eating, so your triglycerides are going to come down. You are eating saturated fat and things that are good for you, so your HDL is going to go up, and you're in the right metabolic state, and that's going to help you as well. So then you optimize sleep and stress, and you'll be fine. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just try to make things consistent in that pattern so you get reliable test results. And reduce stress, prioritize sleep, get out in the sun, and chill out. You'll be fine.
Absolutely. No, the whole stress thing and keeping your cells calm, keeping your mitochondria healthy, right, is a huge thing that I'm learning about quite often. So that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of variables that definitely affect things, and we're always quick to blaming the carnivore diet or only eating meat, and then people don't really understand there's a lot of other things. You're right, especially sleep, Dr. Chaffee. That's something that we need to pay attention to a little more. Just looking, I got so many questions. If you ever want to pop a question up, let me know, Dr. Chaffee. But I've had this one up for a bit. Jeff, did your boys decide to adopt the carnivore diet on their own? Obviously not on their own. Obviously, parents do and they should influence their kids on how to be successful in life. And my 2 boys, I can only imagine the life they're living with their father, myself, having stage 4 cancer. But they've been amazing teammates for me along my journey. And we've been watching people like Dr. Chaffee, Dr. Baker, Dr. Kiltz talk about all their success they've been having on the carnivore diet. We're listening to it all the time. So my sons have realized, and they're pretty smart boys, that they want to be as optimal as possible in life. And I'm really proud of my son Peter. He's in grade 10. Last year in grade 9, he had a 96% average. He actually participated in 6 different school sports while still participating in his club soccer and the soccer that he's doing right now. He's go all the time, and he's really focused. And for a teenager, now I'm not saying all teenagers are bad. Teenagers are great. They're the best people. They're the best people ever. But he's a little more focused than your normal teenager. And I think the diet has helped a lot. I think his mental clarity is through the roof. He's focused. He's well planned, especially as a boy, as a teenager. And I'm really proud of him. So they didn't do it on their own. I definitely, being involved in my life, it's motivated them to be as optimal as possible. So that's that. Do you have any questions you want to pop up, Dr. Chaffee, or do you want me to
I
keep
think
going?
I think we're both seeing the same, because that both from both of our feeds will pop
Are
up
they?
there.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
is it? Okay, okay, that's
yeah.
good. I didn't know. I'm new to this, guys. I
Yeah.
apologize. My technical skills aren't the greatest. Here, I'll pop this one up here. Taking away the taste aspect, how many grains of protein would you recommend per pound for the average person and for someone building muscle? I understand to start with equal parts fat and adjust.
Yeah, that's a difficult one to answer. Like there's, I mean, you think about how complex our biochemistry is and our metabolic demands, especially people in different states and everything like that. Like there's, you have tens of trillions of cells. They have tens of trillions of chemical reactions, every few seconds, right? So this is so much more complex than we could ever calculate. There is no equation that's complex enough to figure out exactly what our daily ins and outs need to be. We simply don't have the variables, all the different things that we're doing on that day-to-day basis. So there's really no way to calculate that, just like, 1 gram of protein per kilo, all that sort of nonsense. I mean, I guess it's sort of a rough guide, but it's not going to get you to where you need to be. It's with any degree of accuracy. But it doesn't matter, because you don't have to. You don't have to figure it out. Your body figures it out. I've never seen a koala pull out a calculator to figure out their macros, right? And yet they know, how much they're supposed to eat, because they just eat it, And so if you're eating what you're supposed to eat, your hunger and your taste signals will tell you how much to eat. So it's hard to say. If someone is trying to build muscle, you're going to need more than you did before. If you're static in your environment and you're just sort of sedentary, just having a normal life, you're gonna need to eat X. When I start working out and I start lifting weights a lot, I need to eat 2X. So I'll eat literally twice as much during the day, but it's purely driven by my hunger. I'm not this Stan Efferding's going on, I have to force myself to do it. No, my body does it for me, and I naturally will be more hungry, and my body will want more. If I'm not able to get it as much as my body wants, I'm not able to eat twice a day or something like that, or get enough when I do, I simply won't put on the muscle mass that I would have otherwise. If I'm able to eat, as much as my body's telling me to, I will put on muscle extraordinarily easy. It's more easily than I've ever experienced in my entire life. So it's pretty. It does come down to really just going by taste. The grams are going to be different. It's going to be different for your size, certainly, but it's also going to be different for your metabolic demand. If people, I've worked with anorexics, recovered anorexic, who actually go carnivore and recover from anorexia, and little small women that have like a BMI of 9 at one point, and now they're eating meat again, and they're doing amazing, and they're putting on weight. They're eating 3-4 times as much as me, sometimes, right? It's like, it's insane how much they'll eat. One lady was putting, well, maybe not 4 times as much as me, but, good, like twice as much as I would, and I'm not a small man, I'm like, at the moment, I'm like 6'3", 230, so this tiny little slender woman was eating like 8,000 calories a day in ribeye. And that's what she needed, because her body was at such a deficit of nutrients that she just needed this. And she was putting on weight, but she wasn't like a massive bodybuilder. She didn't get fat or anything like that. She was still very skinny at the end of the year, but she was eating like 8,000 calories a day. And then that sort of tapered off when her body caught up. So unfortunately, it's not, I can't give you a straight grammage amount. Your body will figure it out for you, and you'll end up getting a couple 100 grams of protein a day. It's going to be well in excess of what anyone would say, gram, 1.2 grams, 2 grams per kilo, any of these sorts of things. Like you'll exceed that. Your body will definitely exceed that, especially if you're working out a lot.
Okay, I popped up this next question, Dr. Chaffee, and I think it goes along the same topic. If a person eats higher protein than fat and is in ketosis when working out, would the body prioritize using fat stores versus the protein being converted to sugar? When they say protein being converted to sugar, I think that's a process called gluconeogenesis. So how
Yeah,
would
it's
you
not
answer
just
that?
your protein though. You'll do that from fat too. So it's not just from protein, and the idea that if you have excess protein that will automatically get turned into carbs is not true. It's demand driven. It's not substrate driven. It's not because it's like, just like we have excess food here, we'll just turn it into muscle. No, that's not how it works. Your body does what it wants to do, and then if it has stuff left over, it puts it in storage. That's basically what's going to happen. It's hard to say. Your body's going to yes use some fat, but if you're eating far less fat than your body wants, you will start converting protein into energy, and it's not that you're not going to trick your body into losing fat. In fact, a lot of times when you start doing that and you try restricting the amount of fat that you're eating, if your body's telling you to eat the fat, it means eat the fat. You're not going to trick your body into doing this. Yeah, you can starve yourself into a smaller, dress size. Like everyone knows that, but it will depress your metabolism and you'll plateau and you won't get any further than that, and so you won't get like the ultimate gains. I mean, it's sort of like like taking a shortcut, and then you get there, but you didn't actually get all the way there. It's just it's like a deal with the devil. It looks like you're getting something good, but then actually it pulls you up short to a dead end. So you can slow down your metabolism, and then all of a sudden you're not doing as well. Then when you start eating again, your body goes like, oh, okay, no, we're going to store this, because you're telling your body that you don't have resources available. What animal, when resources are available, when food's available, when their primary optimal food is available and they're hungry, they don't eat. When does that ever happen? It doesn't happen. So your body doesn't know what you're doing. Your body doesn't know that you're trying to lose fat. I know what he's doing. I'll help him out. It just sees we're telling him to eat fat. He's not eating fat. That means there's no fat available. We need to shut down. We need to store and save resources. So you don't want to think about fat as a calorie source. You want to think of fat as a nutrient. It is an essential nutrient. There are essential fatty acids that you have to have or you get sick and you can die. There are essential fat soluble nutrients that you have to have or you can get sick and you'll die. Also, if you want to lose weight, you want to actually prioritize fat as well. Think about it this way. Calories don't have weight. Calories is a measure of heat energy. This is why it's a useless metric, right? So when you eat things, you're eating matter, you're eating mass, you're eating atoms. That has weight. They weigh in grams. And so what's that equation? It's 9 calories per 1 gram of fat, right? And then 4 calories per 1 gram of carbs and protein, right? So people think like, well, this is less calories, so I'm eating less calories and I'll use my calories. No, it's not really how that works. You'll end up eating a similar amount. Your body will tell you to eat this amount. You can starve yourself, but you're gonna crash your metabolism. So if you're eating fat and protein and don't eat carbs, think about it this way. If you flip that equation around, now you look at it, it's 1 gram per 9 calories or 2.2 grams per 9 calories for protein or carbs. So you're actually taking in less matter, less mass to get that energy. So in fact, you're much more efficient getting your energy from fat than you would be from protein and things like that. You're not just going to prioritize your fat stores. If you're eating enough fat, if you're eating a protein, then you'll prioritize your fat stores. And your body says, hey, we're not in a famine. We don't have to store onto this. Let's raise your metabolism. Let's see what we can do here. So, another way to look at this or test this in yourself, and if you're burning more protein than you want for energy and turning that into glucose, is you check your urea and your BU and creatinine. If that starts going up, that means you're converting a lot more amino acids into glucose and energy. because you have to cleave off that amino group. That's that nitrogen group. You turn that into ammonia, that turns into urea. So urea starts creeping up. That means you're eating too much protein, not enough fat, and you're using the protein as energy instead of the fat. And you can do that if you're overweight. It doesn't matter. If you have a lot of excess fat and you're eating way too much protein, your body's going to use that protein as energy. It doesn't need it, right? And it needs energy. And you're telling it you're in a famine and you're starving. So it's going to say, well, we don't want to use our savings. We want to use that as little as possible. And we want to use other sorts of means. So you're not going to out-trick your biology. You're not going to trick millions of years of evolution. Just eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. Lift weights, sprint if you can, and just give it time. You're not in a rush. There are people that lose hundreds of pounds in a year, and there's other people that lose 40 pounds in a year, or there's people that don't lose any weight for 6 months or a year, and then they start losing weight. Everyone's at different places. You don't want to force this. Just eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. Don't eat anything else. Let your body do its thing, and you'll be fine. And just be patient. Let your body do its thing. Like, you'll get good results. The most important thing is your health, and that you're eating the right things to give your body the proper nutrition for optimal health. That's what you need to do. So, like you can trick yourself and take drugs and inject Ozempic and do all sorts of things to try to lose weight, and you'll lose weight, but you'll really hurt yourself in the process, and you'll end up gaining more weight than you lost once you stop. So it's not the right way to do it. Slow and steady wins the race. And the fact of the matter is most people doing carnivore and eating more fat lose a shit ton of weight more quickly than anything else they've ever tried. And it's consistent, and you can maintain it, and you can keep doing this for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Chaffee. I'm going to have to rewatch this live a few times because your answers are amazing, and they're very scientific, and there's been a lot of research, and you've been studying quite a bit. So I think these answers are awesome. And I just want to pull this up because I know you do this all the time and you say thank you. We got about like 5 more minutes, but I just want to say thank you. This is one of your subscribers. We're all hard. Appreciate the detailed answers. Doctor, I'm on day 14, feeling amazing. This is from Double Nickels and Keto, $20. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee, for all of you. You're a rock star. I appreciate all you do. He absolutely is a rock star. He's like Superman. He's Michael Jordan to me. Reader, $5 super sticker. Thank you very much. It says QQQ for the earlier question on protein and fat, another $5. Just coming back here, we'll take a few more questions. I had one ready. The next time I do this, I'm going to be a lot better at this, everybody. I learn a lot from Dr. Chaffee, even when it comes to technology sometimes.
Just learn by doing. I had to struggle through this, when I was starting out too.
So here we go. When the samurai were hunting meat for their own consumption, the imperial court tried to discourage rice-growing peasants from eating it. Do you think something similar is happening today?
100%. It was the same thing everywhere in the world. The elites ate meat and the peasants ate grains. That is what happened. That was in England. That was in India. That was in everywhere. When the British colonized India, they pulled them out of the forest. They stopped them from hunting because those were now the king's woods, the king's deer, and they put them on fields. They had them growing grains, and they paid them in grains. And so they overnight changed their diet. Everyone think, oh, so it's Hinduism. No. Most people still ate meat. In fact, the original Brahmin text was all about eating cows and was all about how important it was to eat cows, and that sort of sacred, holding the cows sacred is probably a holdover from that. It was such an important animal, but it was an important animal to sacrifice and eat and share in feasts and things like that. If someone important came to visit, you were required by the religious text to sacrifice a bull and your best bull and have a feast and all these sorts of things. So that's exactly what's happening. They're trying to make this the food of the elite again, and they're trying to make people sick and dependent on the food supply. If you have animals, if you raise animals, if you hunt in the woods, you're independent. They don't want people being independent. They want people being dependent. I mean, there's some weird stuff going on with hunting now. There's some weird like zombie plague going on with deer. I think like what is it? Mark Zuckerberg went around and did a campaign and inoculated 100,000 deer with what? For why? Well, for what reason? What the hell do they need to be inoculated for? Against what? And then all of a sudden you have this zombie deer apocalypse where they have these crazy neurological problems. And what's that doing? Is that going to spread? Is that because of the inoculations? Is that what they were trying to inoculate it from? Doubt it. What the hell is going on here? Is that going to be transferable to humans? Is that transferable to other deers or other animals? This is some scary stuff. And, people are desperately trying to vilify meat, and they're desperately trying to stick the masses on just plant-based garbage that we know is toxic to us. We're getting sicker and sicker than we've ever been in human history. And it is a direct result of the crap that we're eating.
Absolutely.
But one real quick thing. That was one of the major things. That was one of the major ways of keeping the serf class, the peasant class, suppressed and oppressed. Was you limited the meat supply. Everyone knew how important that was, and you kept it limited, and that kept them weak and subservient. In ancient Rome, they said when the plebeians, which were the peasant class, when they would get uppity and they started getting ready to revolt, they didn't like how things were going. They would start handing out bread, and they'd put on a bunch of circuses and just distract them. Oh, look at these shiny lights. Same thing that we're doing is like, hey, here's a free Happy Meal. Here's a free Sunday, and come down here, and oh, it's free. Gonna have a free festival and a conference or on a carnival and all this sort of stuff. Same thing. But so they said bread and circuses. That's what people talk about. So you distract the plebeians, the serfs. Just bread and circuses. Give them junk food, put them on Netflix, and just distract them with shiny lights, right? That's what they do. That's what we've been doing for thousands of years. What they don't tell you is the other side of that equation of bread and circuses was they cut off the meat supply to Rome. Wow. And so they cut off the meat supply, and then they'd hand out a bunch of bread and then distract people with, flashing lights and lions eating Christians and things like that. So but that was part of it, was they cut off the meat supply. They know exactly what they're doing. People know this stuff for thousands of years. And so, that's exactly what they're doing.
Wow. Crazy. Everyone, we're going to wrap this up because I've taken 45 minutes of Dr. Chaffee staring at nothing because I was a technology dummy this morning. And then we've been on now for just over an hour. So this has been phenomenal. I just want to, I'm just going to end with this one. You can get all the nutrition from ribeye too. If you want to feel more better, have liver, you can eat intestines. I know, Dr. Chaffee, you don't eat any organs, and you don't really need to, I guess, being on a lion diet, carnivore diet. But I just wanted to pull that up because I was actually talking to my mother the other day, and my mother's in her 70s, and she's even fascinated by the diet that I've been doing, obviously. But I remember as an athlete, when I was in high school, especially as a basketball player, my calves would cramp up a lot. And we had this thing we were taught to eat bananas, right? To eat bananas for potassium. So I'm sure my muscle cramps were a combination of, inflammation, maybe not having enough electrolytes, magnesium and potassium levels for the right muscle contractions. But everything I'm learning about the ribeye steak and all the essential vitamins and minerals and nutrients that are in a ribeye steak, I don't know what the actual number is, Dr. Chaffee, but it's something around like there's 10 times the amount of potassium in a ribeye steak versus a banana. And I'd have to eat like 20 bananas a day to get my calves behaving the way I wanted them to behave. So I think, is that somewhat correct, what I'm saying there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, meat is way more nutrient dense than all of this nonsense. I mean, it's just all marketing, really. I mean, and or just based in just flat out lies and propaganda. It's funny how many of these things are. I mean, did you grow up being told you should eat carrots because it's good for your eyesight?
Absolutely.
Right?
I did.
Everybody, yes, yeah, because there's a lot of beta carotene, and that turns into vitamin A, retinol, and that's really good for your eyes, and that's crap. That was there's barely any retinol at the end of the day. There is no retinol; it doesn't exist in plants. Beta carotene can be converted, but it's like 1/20th of the beta carotene turns into of retinol. It's very inefficient, so you're really not going to get enough vitamin A. You'd have to eat about 6 pounds of carrots a day to get enough vitamin A. And some people don't even convert retinol to or beta carotene to retinol at all. So that came from World War II because we had like radar technology, and we didn't want the Germans to know that we had some new technology where we could spot planes before they were visible. And so we let it go out there that, our pilots are eating a lot of carrots, so they get like a lot of beta carotene and vitamin A, so they have better vision, they can see these guys way far off. And it worked. People bought it. And then they didn't actually say, yeah, we were joking, because they just left it, right? And just like the food pyramid, the government bought up all this grain because they guaranteed the price of grain, because they had a deal with the USSR to sell them grain, and they had way too much. And they just said, wow, we want to get this off our hands. And so they came out with recommendations saying, hey, you need to eat 9 to 12 servings of grain. And they made the food pyramid. And that was it. That was not based on anyone's recommendations. Even the recommendations at the time were like, yeah, 3 to 4 servings a day. That's optimal. They're like, great, 9 to 12 it is. And that's what they came out with, right? And that was just to sell off the excess surplus of grain that they had, and then they never walked it back. They just said, "Well, we're not gonna tell them that's what it was." So they just walked it. They just let it go. It's been like that since the 50s, So or 60s, 70s, But anyway, long time, decades, and and it was just total crap. So a steak is the most nutrient dense thing in the world besides liver and organs. Organs are really, really chock full of these stuff. I tend not to eat organs, but I do sometimes. There's a South African dish. It's like basically like minced up liver with a bit of beef in it, and it's wrapped with suet, like fat and things like that. I actually find I really like those. So I found a butcher here that will do it without all the spices and seasonings that they use. It's just the meat and the liver. And so I have those every now and then. And that's fine. I don't think you need to go crazy on it. There are a lot of people living 20 years, 30 years. These guys, the Andersons, that have been, for the last 25 years, just eating ribeyes every single day, just ribeyes, and raised, a handful of kids on the same thing. And they're all doing great. They look younger now than they did 25 years ago when they started, and like actually I've shown their picture to people, and they're like, yeah, well, that's obviously they're younger here, sort of put on weight here, and doesn't look as fresh, and her face is obviously weathered. And it's like, yeah, that's her at 26 when you're saying she looks older. That's her at 46 when you say she looks younger. It's crazy the difference. So you can get, almost everyone can get all they need from ribeye. Some people will have things like MTHFR. They won't be able to methylate folate as well. And so just check your folate. If you're on a carnivore diet, I think that's probably the only blood that you should check is your folate and potentially B12, because if you're not methylating these properly and you're not processing these properly, then you may just need a bit of extra liver, and that's it, really. You just add in a bit of organs every now and then, but it doesn't have to be much. Keep it in proportion. You got a big old cow. You're going to eat that thing for the next year. It's got one liver, so space it out. It's not that big of a deal, and that's fine. So I still have a little bit of it, but really only in the version of that little South African dish.
Sounds good. Dr. Chaffee, I'm going to close this off, but I have this other question up here, and I want this to maybe be answered on our next live, because I'm hoping you'll do another one with me, Dr. Chaffee. And what I'm hoping is I can maybe really try to encourage Peter and Dante to be on with us, because I think it's good to hear things from teenagers. I also understand I'm going to have to build up the courage for them to come on, because when we're on social media, I get it. All the other teenagers may be judging them, right? So they need a lot of courage to get on here, but I would like to do my next live. And this question here, like, can I continue taking creatine supplement while adapting the carnivore diet? Creatine is something I know teenagers, even when I was in high school, and this is something we could touch upon. I kind of know the answer to this. You can get enough creatine in ribeye steaks and in meat. You don't need to be taking this processed garbage that they're selling teenagers, especially where they're getting the creatine from, right? And how they're making that creatine in the supplement. So we could talk probably more about that and how it retains water in your body. We could talk about more about that when we're on with my sons, when we get some more. This is what my wish was for today, Dr. Chaffee, is that I really hope a lot of parents of youth were watching this. A lot of parents of athletes were watching this. I'm looking at this. There's 437 people watching right now. So I'm really blown away. It's pretty awesome. I thank all my subscribers, all Dr. Chaffee subscribers. It's really the parents and the adults in the world. My number one passion is youth, and I think a lot of us as our passion is our youth, and we want to change the world, because we're kind of living in a cynical world where we judge people a lot, and we're being brainwashed by the wrong powers in terms of what we need to be doing to improve ourselves. So I started today with talking about Michael Jordan. And then I had people say in the chat here, Wayne Gretzky eats a steak every day, before every game too. He used to. Messi. There's actually someone right now in the soccer world. His name is Erling Haaland, and Haaland is the number 9 striker. He's the Norwegian striker, plays for Manchester City. He's in his early 20s. This young lad is constantly, as an athlete, trying to improve himself, and he pretty much admits to being about 80 to 90% carnivore, and he's grown I believe an inch or an inch and a half in his 20s. Okay,
yeah, I think I heard about that. Yeah,
that's Holland, and he wears blue light glasses 3 hours before bed every single night, so he gets a good sleep, because he knows the importance of sleep. Stuff like that. These are the types of people that we need our children, our athletes, our youth looking up to. And Dr. Chaffee, you're one of them too. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on with me today. And I'm sorry about all the technical difficulties earlier.
It's all good, man. No, it was a pleasure. And hopefully more parents get onto this, and more kids are encouraged to try this, because it's the best thing for them. They'll develop better than they would otherwise. Their brains will be bigger and stronger. Their bodies will be bigger and stronger. They'll be more athletic. They'll be happier. They'll be less agitated, have less mental health issues. All these things that you want for your kid, they won't have major problems with acne and skin issues and depression and all. Kids will get sad. Being teenagers sucks in a lot of ways. When you're dealing with a bunch of teenage drama, but you can handle it so much better. Everything's just so much more chill. And so it's something that I think every parent would love the results of in their kids.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee, for everything, and thank all the subscribers. And I wish everybody has a great Sunday. I know you're probably going to bed soon, Dr. Chaffee?
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock, so probably head off.
I am so sorry. You need to go to bed.
Yeah, it's all good, man.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.